Welcome to the Friday edition of Forecast Lab. Let's take a look at the surface analysis for this afternoon. Looks very summer-like. Stagnating boundary from Georgia up through Missouri, and behind that, quite a bit of precipitation through the Appalachians and down into northern Georgia. The moisture is flowing northward. Dew points in the 70s, all the way from East Texas up into the Kansas City area, 77-degree dew point at Falls City, Nebraska, and the cusp of that moisture up near Sioux Falls, and then that tracks back into that precipitation area out east. An active frontal system entering the Dakotas, and a rather stout push of cold air back behind that. Very cool day, temperatures in the 50s in Edmonton and Saskatoon, and down south, rather blustery winds up to 30 miles an hour from Moose Jaw into Winnipeg. The monsoon looks a tiny bit less active this afternoon. When I was going through the data, I didn't really see much going on the Mogollon Rim or in the Four Corners, but it is developing in the higher mountains of New Mexico into Colorado and back into Utah, forming a little bit of a comma appearance, and that could be due to the strong prevailing westerlies starting to pick up through Nevada into the Four Corners. In the Pacific Northwest, much cooler. Instead of seeing 90s and near 100 degrees, we're seeing low 70s, so they're definitely getting a break up there. And it looks like I might have misanalyzed that. That's not high pressure. That looks like a low, because you can see we dropped from 1016 to 1012. So I got a little bit fooled there. Let's take a look up in Alaska. It's continuing to be quite mild up there. Lots of precipitation from Anchorage down to Juneau. A little bit drier out in Yukon and the Northwest Territories. Then we get into some warm weather out there ahead of the frontal system. Temperatures in the low 70s from Yellowknife up to Inuvik. Very cool in the eastern Arctic, 40s and 50s this afternoon. Then dropping down to Quebec. Little occlusion out there in the northern part of the province. Cold front moving into the Maritimes. Still hanging on to 80s in New Brunswick. And then we come around down to the eastern U.S. Thunderstorms from New Hampshire, Maine, all the way down towards Scranton, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and then back into the Carolinas and the Appalachians. There's a quick look at maximum temperatures around the country. Lots of 100s. You just have to look around and find them. Hundreds through Texas and Oklahoma, no surprise there. Hottest that I'm seeing, 109 at Frederick, Oklahoma. On the West Coast, also 100s in the San Joaquin Valley, all the way up into the Mount Shasta region. Hottest temperature that I'm seeing in here looks like 108 around Merced. And let's see, also 100s around Washington, D.C., and 99 up there near Poughkeepsie, New York, 99 at Albany. And yeah, there's a 100-degree reading in New Hampshire. I guess that's probably Portsmouth. And not to be forgotten, the High Plains. I don't think we have any viewers up there. If we do, post in the comments. I'm kind of curious, but hundreds all through this region. I think we had some downslope conditions through that area, and the hottest temperature looks like 106 around Miles City. And just a quick check up north. I know we have a few viewers up in Alaska at least. Let's bring that down into the frame. And looks like almost 80 degrees around Fairbanks. So yeah, it did warm up a little bit. And then out in the Northwest Territories, 70s. Yeah, the rest of the Canadian area lost it there, but looked pretty normal for this time of year. Very quickly, let's look at the forecast temperatures, because this is some of the most interesting weather. This is where we go forward about 6 days into the future and look for crazy temperatures. This is this afternoon. These are all Weather Service forecast temperatures from a human, not from a model. So, yeah, quite hot there in Nebraska, 105 at Scottsbluff, and 102 at Borger, Texas. For tomorrow, continued hot in the central U.S., looking at 102 at Omaha and 104 at Dodge City. For Sunday, a little bit of heat starting to show up in the Portland area. I don't know what VUO is, but that looks like it's somewhere around Portland. And some hot temperatures appearing in New England. There's Monday. Clearly, we're backing off from that brutal heat that we've had during most of July in the south and southwestern U.S. Tuesday, it looks like that heat is setting up there in the northern Rockies, 104 at Omak and 101 at Missoula. Nothing appearing for Wednesday. Nothing for Thursday either, but that does not rule out records next week. We just have to wait for these calendar dates to come within range of the short-term forecasts. Still looking quiet out in the Atlantic as far as tropical storms and hurricanes. A very slow start to the 2022 hurricane season. A quick look at the sea surface temperature anomaly does indicate temperatures are rather warm out in the hurricane breeding areas, the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean. And I guess just no major systems coming out of West Africa just yet. The precipitable water, that's the key to the forecast this time of year. If we start out the chart sequence, you're going to see a pressure gradient across the Gulf region. Notice the isobars right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. So that's indicating good moisture flux, transported moisture from the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico into the eastern and central U.S. And we've also got these frontal systems moving in from Canada. You're going to see these diving into the Midwest region, into the Corn Belt, and we are looking at quite a bit of precip starting this weekend in that part of the country. Let's run that forward. You can see up in the northern U.S., there comes that front interacting with the moisture. Thunderstorms going up in Iowa later on Saturday. And some indication of continued convection through early next week into the eastern U.S. The moisture is still flowing north from the Gulf, and looks like a little disturbance starting to show up in the Gulf Coast region next Friday. So we'll see what happens with that. That's 160 hours out. That could pick up the precipitation chances on the coast. And let's see, getting into the end, notice that the flow from the Gulf has weakened a bit, not seeing as many of those isobars through that region. But there's still plenty of moisture to work with, and in those shallow waters along the coast, plenty of evaporation. In getting to the end, looks like it dries out just a little bit up in the northern U.S., but down south, quite a bit of thunderstorm activity. And here's the remnants of another system. Again, this is way out there. This is August 20th, but it looks like maybe a little bit of mid and upper level moisture could be heading for California towards the 3rd or 4th week of August. Going region by region around the country, lots of air mass thunderstorms throughout the southeastern U.S., but you can see a well-defined sea breeze surging inland. There it is, heading that way. And there's another sea breeze right through this area too. That's active as well. All of that producing rain and thunderstorms through much of the Gulf Coast region. Air mass thunderstorm activity across the northeastern U.S. as well. You can see on the map that is not really associated with a front. There could be a little residual boundary through here. I didn't really analyze that. I guess that could be one. So yeah, I would say that's probably a little stationary front. And that could be helping with some of this convection from New York into Detroit and Benton Harbor. In the northwestern U.S., we've got that other front extending through the central Rockies into the Great Basin area. So this is frontal in nature, and you can see the transverse bands in this altocumulus and cirrus field from Idaho to Montana. And in the southwestern U.S., we see that the monsoon has backed off a little bit. However, 1.5-inch precipitable water amounts all the way up into southern Nevada. And that persists for quite a while. It looks like another surge coming up around Sunday and Monday that could recharge things. So if we can shut down that strong prevailing westerly flow, get rid of those fronts, we should see the monsoon activity resume once again. And we just go through the chart sequence here. Yeah, the monsoon will be back next week. And we'll check in on Big Rig Steve with his views of the sky and the road. Murfreesboro, Tennessee is where he's at, southeast of Nashville. So he's in this unsettled area, but just picking up a few tufts of debris from nearby storms that formed earlier around Nashville. So it appears he's not on the road at the moment, but you can see some of that cirrus debris off in the distance out in this region here. And there's a moderately developed cumulus field. This appears to be looking southeast. So that's how the sky looks in Tennessee this afternoon. And there is the corresponding skew-t for the Murfreesboro, Tennessee area. Unstable in the lowest at 10,000 feet. That temperature line leaned over to the left, indicating high static instability. And plenty of moisture, although it does taper with height, starting out in the mid-60s and tapering off into 50s and 40s as you get into higher levels. So there is a little bit of dry air aloft, and that's helping to support these very slightly elevated decapes of 700. The wind shear, weak. 20 knots out of the southwest in the mid-levels, becoming calm aloft, and the photograph is just bunched up on itself, so that's not going to support organized convection. So that's it for this edition of Forecast Lab. We are in the summer doldrums, so there's no sense in going on for a 20-minute show. We have been free of YouTube ads for the last 5 years. At least I've chosen not to monetize this channel. But if you want to keep it that way, we do need your support. Head to my Patreon at the following link, and that will get you set up. As a supporter, you'll also get the private Monday videos to round out your forecast week. Hope you have a great weekend. Take care, and we will see you back here on Monday for the supporters and on Wednesday for everybody else. Bye-bye.